Hi, welcome back to this video series called Knowledge Base from Ingate Systems. I'm Erik Linask from TMC, and I'm here with Ingate Systems President Steven Johnson once again. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Erik.
So last week, Steve, you introduced our viewers to network address translation, why it's important, how it's achieved, what it's done, what it does, and so on. This week we want to talk a little bit about how Ingate goes about, what Ingate's role is, I guess, in SIP-based enterprise networks.
Sure. That's something I love to talk about. Ingate is very proud to, first of all, be doing these video series and providing the knowledge to our customers and to the enterprises in general who are looking to do SIP trunking. SIP, as we've said before, is a protocol that runs at the application layer, and SIP is also something that is oftentimes frustrated by firewalls and NATs that are created in enterprises for security primarily, and for the proliferation of the devices we have connected to our networks. So Ingate has three primary functions. We are, first of all, often called an enterprise session border controller, and the functions that I will describe are available to enterprises on our Separator product, which is our mainline product, as well as a complete firewall product that we offer to the enterprise as well. We do three things, as I said. The first of them is to resolve the NAT traversal issue, and that means keeping track of where all of the SIP devices are by IP address in the network, and being able to rewrite from the publicly routable address on the outside of your firewall or the outside of your network, so that we can actually reach you on your desktop. So when I dial or I call Erik at TMCnet, for example, that will be dialed as a number, just like we would on a regular telephone. That number will resolve to a publicly routable IP address on the outside of your network, and I need to know that if I want to get to you and your desktop, somehow that needs to be translated, and that's the function that Ingate performs. It keeps track of where you are, it rewrites the header information so that it resolves from Erik at TMC to Erik's desktop. That's the first function. That's a very important function, and along with that comes a lot of analysis of what's being sent to make sure that you're getting something that you really want. We can get into that in a minute. The second thing that we do is normalize the SIP traffic. SIP is a standard. It was developed by the IETF, as we said in an earlier video. It is governed by RFC 3261. RFC stands for Request for Comment, and that's the way the IETF promulgates its standards. Because it's a request for comment, frankly, it allows for various ways of doing the same thing. One example, it has 2 or 3 different types of methods that you could use to make a call transfer. It has the ability to authenticate or not. Those kinds of things are quite acceptable, but because there is that sort of ability to be flexible in how you implement it, various vendors of equipment have chosen one way or another. And in some cases you have an option on that equipment, and a service provider chooses one way or another in order to satisfy what they need. So the normalization process that we have is driven by our extensive list of interoperability partners that includes most of the IPPBX vendors, many of the gateway vendors, and many of the ITSPs or service providers that are offering SIP trunking. And with our unit, using our back-to-back user agent and or our proxy capabilities, we're able to convert from one form to another form. All of it's legitimate SIP, but we're able to convert from one to the other so that the IPPBX is talking the same language, let's say, as the service provider is looking for. So we are, in that case, some people call us middleware, a translator. I prefer to say we're normalizing the traffic between the two networks.
You talked about the importance of NAT traversal. What happens if NAT traversal can't be resolved?
Basically, you get one-way audio. So you can speak and I can hear you all day long, but you can't hear what I'm saying back.
And effectively, Ingate ensures that it can't be resolved.
Ingate ensures that. That's how we were formed nearly 8 years ago. That was the mission that we took on. We have certainly accomplished that mission, and we do for thousands of companies around the world. And we have expanded our role now to handle this normalization function, which is also very critical.
One of the things that we haven't gotten very deeply into yet is security.
Yes.
What about security issues?
Security is something that every company who adopts SIP needs to be concerned about. SIP, by its nature, has built into it a lot of safeguards. But one of the things that Ingate accomplishes is to basically police that safeguard, to basically do two things. One is to deeply inspect the SIP signaling that is coming into the network, to make sure that everything is properly formed and that no one has tried to hijack that signaling stream for non-valuable purposes. The second thing is that we keep all of the ports for the media, the voice, closed until there's a valid SIP session that has been initiated and accepted. And then we open those ports for the duration of the call. So you don't have any ports that are left open and subject to a port sniffer finding a way into your network. So we accomplish a lot of things around just managing and maintaining the perimeter of your network. And then we give you controls as well. And those controls let you define, the user, define exactly what it is that you're willing to accept. So maybe you're willing to accept voice and video, or maybe you just want voice. You can make that determination, and you can program our system to do that. Maybe you want to receive calls only from a particular IP address. Maybe there are certain IP addresses that you've identified that you never want to receive calls from, and you can put those on the blacklist. And you may want to protect against intrusion, which you probably should, and denial of service attacks, which you probably will. And then you can also, if you are in a profession requiring even further privacy and security, with the Ingate device you can also encrypt the traffic. You can encrypt the signaling, you can encrypt the media, just to make sure everything remains as private as possible. Excellent.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for joining us for this session of Ingate's Knowledge Base. I'm Erik Linask from TMCnet. Now that we've talked a little bit about NAT traversal and Ingate's role in it, Steve mentioned that without NAT traversal, you can only have one-way voice communications, and certainly that's not what people are looking for these days. So join us for our next session, where Steve will get more deeply into Ingate's role in addressing and resolving NAT traversal issues. Thanks again, Steve.
Thank you. See you next week.